We are live now. And now I gotta make this is where I gotta make sure I pronounce the names right. I'm here with Delaware Senate candidate Mary Louve, like the museum, and Santana Innes. So I think I did it right. and Santana and I have talked a couple times before, working about women's issues. Super important. I just love using our platforms to elevate a new generation of candidates. And I always start out these talks the same. Mary, thank you so much for being of the new generation of candidate that comes and talks to regular people like me. So many of the establishment candidates are chicken. They won't come and talk because they can't field just regular questions from regular people and field the things that are concerns to us. So thank you for being here. We'll let Santana get involved in a minute, but I want Mary to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. So I am running for the U.S. Senate. I am running in the primary in Delaware on the 15th of September. I am running against the incumbent Democrat, Chris Coons, because I feel like after 15 years, actually, I'm sorry, at this point, I think 16 years in office, he's a little out of touch with people. And I am a person. I am a normal person. I am a mom with 3 kids who is working as an engineer, who lost her job due to the government shutdown this past year. I have a job again, but I was unemployed for 3 months. And in those 3 months, I needed the system, right? So I applied for SNAP. I applied for unemployment. I tried to apply for healthcare. And what I learned in that process is why the system isn't working and why it's failing from experiencing it. And I can't sit down and not try to fix it now. So that's what I'm running for.
That's exactly what we need. People who have experienced that part of our country. Santana, your thoughts?
I mean, look, for me, I vote from abroad. So I literally just found the email address on Mary's website and was like, hey,
Can I interrupt 1 second? We are getting an echo. I think it's coming from your computer, Mary. Maybe you could cover your speaker.
Yes, I can.
okay, and I just want to make sure it's not me. It's not
Well,
me.
you've got the headphones in. I think that
Okay.
sounds okay. Good. Can still hear us, Mary? Okay, we're good. So go ahead, Santana.
Okay. Just saying I vote from abroad and I just emailed the email address on Mary's website and I was looking into the candidates. As Mary said, Chris Coons is like a career politician at this point. And, as a person that's lived abroad in Europe for many, many years, a lot of the Democratic Party that I sort of grew up with, like of the Clinton administration, these sort of establishment Democrats, I think I want to say. I really recognize them now not as left of center, but as center. And it's because I've lived abroad for so long and I've lived in places where there's such a plurality of political thinking. I live in a country now where there's like literally a very active communist party. And it's like, whoa, like that's on the scene. Y'all are organized. People don't think you're cray cray. It's not for me. But I've come to realize like this Democratic Party that I grew up with of the 90s, this kind of thing. This I recognize now as a centrist political ideology. I don't identify it as left of center. And I really want to see something that's left of center.
Yes.
Because having lived abroad for so many years, it's not rocket science that people deserve access to healthcare, that people deserve access to make decisions about their own goddamn bodies.
Yes.
And it's not absurd to think that people should be able to educate themselves without going into debt for a lifetime, let alone going into debt just calling an ambulance. I think there was a poll that came out earlier this week or late last week that said over 90% of Americans delay or completely fail to seek medical attention for known problems for fear of or knowing how much it will cost them to get that care. And I just don't think you can call yourself with integrity the most advanced, the strongest, the best, the blah blah nation in the world, where 90% of your citizens can't get healthcare for fear of going bankrupt, intergenerationally bankrupt. So I just started reaching out. There's a guy also running in the Dem primary for Senate. He's got a gimmick. The last time he ran as a Republican. This time he's running as a Democrat, and he calls himself No Trump and whatever his last name is. I go to the guy's website. I'm like, give me a break, buddy.
Yeah.
He's talking about how he's saving Americans money, and he knows what it's like to save Americans money. Sir, he works for Walmart. He works for Walmart. Walmart did not refund the tariff money.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Walmart will bend over backwards to make sure that people who work there don't have access to healthcare. They will gut the local economy and then do everything they can to stop people from getting access to services that they then need to go seek out through taxpayer benefited programs like Medicare and Medicaid.
And Mary,
so I literally slid into Mary's email DMs, just being like, will you talk to me? I am interested in supporting you, but I need to learn more about you. What's going on? And this queen was like, bet, hold my beer, set up some Zoom chats, and we just connected. And I've never talked to a political candidate for that long. So that's why I'm here. I want to platform Mary and have these kind of conversations and use what I have to support.
Excellent. Mary, respond. There's a lot to respond to.
It is. So I want to hop on a few of the things that you just said, Santana, because some of these things, I just put up a post today, actually, across my socials, on my Instagram, on my TikTok, about affordable healthcare and kind of how I see it. And I recognize that where our country is sitting, we are going to have to step down. Like, the reality is that we're going to have to do it in steps. And I know that's not the popular answer, and I'm sorry, but that's the reality of where we're sitting right now. It's going to have to be in big chunks at a time. But one of the biggest chunks I see up front that we could do quickly would be to pull all of these copays that we're all paying out of pocket. There should be no copays for any kind of sick visits. There shouldn't be copays for mental health care. Things like that is like one thing we could just wholesale do really quickly and get a step towards the right direction on the healthcare aspect. But I get it, because I had my daughter, I want to say she is 6 now. She was 18 months old, and we were out at the post office, and she tripped and she fell, and she split open her head across here, and she's gushing blood everywhere. And I needed to bring her in for emergency care. I held compression on it and took her instead of calling an ambulance to come and get her right away, because I knew I couldn't afford to have an ambulance come and get her and take her in, right? And so, like, I understand those decisions that have to be made, because I've had to make them. As a mom with 3 kids, I've had to make them more than I would like to admit, because that's just the reality. And one of the posts that I put up today, I think I even wrote in it that healthcare is one of the biggest things that drives people into bankruptcy. It's one of the biggest things that drives people up and over into the inability to come back financially. And that shouldn't be the case in our country. It really shouldn't. When I first graduated from college, I was working for a US division of a company based out of Finland. And I was one of their first US employees, and they paid for everything healthcare wise. They paid for the entire, policy and everything, but they thought it was crazy. They like, I remember having the conversation with them about healthcare in the country, and they were just like, I don't understand. Because, like, in Finland, when you have a baby, they actually give you an entire kit, right? They give you the baby bed and clothes and bottles and diapers, and they give you everything to get started with this new, like, human being you're bringing into the world, right? And it gives you such a different perspective of what could be versus what is, right? And then currently, my husband now, he is actually from Turkey originally, so he's an immigrant, and having conversations with him as someone who grew up, he's trying to navigate this healthcare system, and he's like, "I just don't understand," you know?
Yeah.
And when you get into conversations with people overseas, you recognize just how far off we really are from where we need to be providing adequate healthcare for people in our country, and it just I'm sorry, but it's a basic human right. We shouldn't have to wonder if we can go into the doctor when we're sick. It's just ridiculous.
Later today, and this will be of interest to you guys, I'm doing a talk with Evie Bateman and Dr. Jamicha Connor, who she's gathering up data about how our healthcare system is on the verge of collapse. 2 out of every 3 counties do not have an OBGYN. So, and we're just seeing this happen. We're seeing all the extended cuts to funding with the bill that the Republicans rammed through. Most of that doesn't take effect until after the midterms. But I think we're at the point where the government is going to have to take on universal health care because this system has got, a couple years left at maximum. For profit is not a functional way to attend to human needs.
Nope. No, and it's not. I mean, one of the one of the people I've reached out to, I think, a lot in conversations around healthcare is a good friend of mine. She actually runs a women's clinic down in Virginia. And so I've been talking to her because she does a lot of outreach into lower income communities, stuff like that. So I've been having a lot of conversations with her in ways that the the changes need to happen and the changes should happen to kind of trickle down to healthcare. But again, like I'm not just one of these politicians coming in going, "I have all the answers." I don't. But I do know things have to change, and I see that. And the reality is that we live in a country full of really smart people, and if we're leveraging these people who have all of this knowledge, we could then actually make real concrete changes that'll be smart and not fail. But I wanna see it set up for success is what I want. I want us to implement so we're successful because it's so important and necessary.
Mm.
I'm very passionate about it.
Yes, that's good. Santana?
Mary, don't forget to mute when you're not talking because of the echo, okay?
Well, it's
Um,
me. Yeah, she has to be able to hear me, so I don't know how to handle. Well, okay, it went away again. Go ahead, Santana.
I just put in the comments, Uber is literally getting into the medical transport game. Like this was announced in the last couple of weeks. Because they realize that people are taking Ubers to the hospital. Make that make sense that we live in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, but we have medical transport companies charging people, upwards of 10, 20,000. When I had to call an ambulance in the United States the last time, the only time we got a bill in the mail for a little over 40,000 US dollars. So, I mean, if you're in like an actual, like really very serious emergency, those bills are not just $3,500, but most Americans don't have enough financial cushion to even withstand an unexpected bill of $3,500. And that's the reality that we live in. And so, how do we have socialized mail delivery and fire departments and police departments, but we don't have socialized ambulance services? Like, why is that private? Um, I realize that I am maybe getting pretty far to the left in my thinking, but I'm
No.
like, socialize the ambulance service, ASAP, Medicare for all. Let's fucking
Our
go.
politicians
Well,
demand
I
it.
don't think you are. Sorry, I don't think you are too far to the left. Like, ambulances specifically, that's a need. That's a need, right? That's a need to have, not a nice to have. It's a need to have. So it is something that I think could be easily, socialized quickly to go ahead and start alleviating some of the issues immediately, right? So I think that's something that could come through very quickly because it's, incremental, right? It's something smaller, but it's something that's incredibly necessary. I don't think that's too far to the left. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. And I would say, in addressing Santana's earlier point, I don't think we have anything that's to the left of center in the United States. I think everything is to the right. The Democratic Party, I think even Bernie Sanders is to the right of center when you look at it on a global scale. And we mentioned before this comment. I mean, the right always leverages the word communism as like this fear tactic, but it is the Republican Party that is using the power of government to enrich themselves. Billionaires, communism is controlling the means of production. In the United States, billionaires control the means of production and the government. So it is the Republicans who are the communists. And I think that we need to start going on the attack with things like this. We have to stop defending. I think this is part of the issue that we got into this mess, is our side feels compelled to always defend ourselves. But it's not our side who's creating a secret police that's shooting innocent people in the street and rounding up people and sending them to concentration camps where children are being raped in those camps. It's not our side that is allowing rapists to go free. And it is not our side that's elevating rapists to the highest offices in the land. And there's more than one. And there's quite a few that are on the ballot the next time around. And at this point, too, I mean, it's just the way they leverage fear tactics. They're trying to do it again. They're not working anymore. The good news is, yesterday we saw Angie Nixon, Robert People, Mary Peltola, all these wonderful progressive candidates have been winning their primaries. And I think the people are fed up. They're fed up with it. We're fed up with allowing it. But I think we have to continue. I mean, impeachment, and let's get to that. I want to get Mary's response and if she'll vote for impeachment. But that, I consider that not the end. That is the start of this activism. So what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, yeah, let's push because, okay, so I have a personal connection to child sexual abuse, and it's a fight that I've been fighting within the system on behalf of my own children right now. And that is also a chunk of why I'm running, because the system it's so corrupt and it's so focused on squashing down the voices of victims everywhere. And I hate the word victim. I really do. I hate that word.
Survivors.
But that's the convey it, right? So like these victims that are being squashed down, their voices are being told, they just don't matter. And I'm raising 3 girls, okay? I have a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 10-year-old. They're all female. And they're already seeing their voices don't matter. When compared to a man talking, their voices don't matter. They're already being shown no one believes them or listens. And that's not a lesson I want my children to learn. So again, it doesn't just start at these lower levels. It starts at the head of government. And yeah, we do need to impeach. And I am hopeful that these elections will push things through and allow us to be able to like get some action and traction there. Because I don't get why the people who are in office right now haven't yet. Like, tell me what it's going to take for them to get angry enough. Because right now, our sitting senator, he's not angry. He's not doing anything. And I am not one to come and attack other politicians. It's just not how I'm wired, because I'd rather get my ideas out there and live in the light than coming and squashing down and attacking other people. But at the end of the day, what are you doing? You have been in office for 16 years. What are you doing? You aren't fighting anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Have they worn you down? Have they worn you out? Like, I don't care, but I've got a lot of fight and I'm coming. So, like, I just need to get there and I am coming for them, because enough is enough. Like, all this Epstein file stuff, I just.
Yeah.
Sorry, it is very personal and it does make me angry. I am a domestic violence survivor. So, especially because of coming out of DV, especially because I've been through smear campaigns. I'm used to people telling me how crazy and insane I am. And then they get to know me and they're like, oh, just kidding. Never mind. Right. So like, none of this scares me. So like, I'm coming full throttle. And when you've already been through the lowest points in your life and you've already been through the worst of it, no one can stop you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Santana, respond.
I love that so much, Mary. And, I come at this from a lens of, I run an organization that provides services to underserved women. And, prior to that, I worked for an international organization in the child protection CSAM space. And, when you see some of the things that are out there to be seen, you cannot unsee them, right? And I think that the the goal maybe to obscure the Epstein files for the benefit of whoever is inside of them. It's not working, right? Because people are starting to see, and this is something that I can maybe comment on as someone that's sitting outside the United States, because I'm just watching y'all. I'm like watching what's going on over there, what you got in those rooms, what's happening. And, what I'm starting to see, especially if you spend any time on Reddit, like if you spend time on Reddit and you tiptoe into /Trump/MAGA, people, I think, are starting to finally be like, wait a second, the math is not mathing here. 3 years ago, this was the party that was literally breaking into a pizza parlor looking for a basement that did not exist because they were so upset about the idea of a elite cabal doing harm to children at scale. And now here we know there is an elite cabal doing harm to children at scale. No one's been tarred and feathered. No one's been drawn and quartered. No one's been even tried or charged. Okay? And so what are we saying here, people? What are we saying? Are we saying that this is okay? And I think what people are starting to wake up to is that if they say inside, this is okay, what does that make them? Where did their humanity go? Because even a year ago, for someone to say, I am cool with people raping children, I'm okay with that. That would be a moral position. I was even afraid to just say that out loud 2 seconds ago. I was afraid to say that out loud because if this becomes a soundbite, right? This is an indefensible, inhumane moral position. But the party has pushed people so far into this upside down, uncanny valley of a world that folks are finally starting to say, okay, enough maybe. I found the line. Finally, I am finding a line. And I think that when we see politicians like establishment Democrats, this is something that we kind of touched on in our one-on-one conversation, Mary. I said, there are some lines that really can't be crossed. There are some lines where I don't want to hear any lip service about reaching across the aisle or bipartisan collaboration. At some point, there is a line. There is a line where we're not talking about horse trading anymore. We're not talking about like, oh, I'll confirm your pick for this cabinet position if you will vote yes on my bill. Abso-fucking-lutely not. We are talking about a literal elite cabal of human beings that are raping and doing other things to children at scale internationally in these streets. And this is not a position where we can say, okay, I would like a centrist, staid, emotionless, logical approach. Abso-fucking-lutely not. Ridicule.
Yes.
Drag them out in the streets. Try them. Find them guilty. Expose the lot. Unless that is the position we are taking, then we lose all moral ground. And we certainly do not see much evidence currently of moral courage on this issue. And so for a person that's working literally every day, bringing services to women that otherwise cannot access it, to know that many of those women are in positions where they are financially insecure, or they are leaving situations of domestic violence, they're leaving situations of gender-based violence. Part of the reason that their trajectories are so far off course is because they have also been the victims of DV, CSAM, child sexual abuse, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, what are we doing here? And I love the idea of bipartisanship on, like, bridges. Okay, everybody needs to drive across a bridge, or like, do we have enough sidewalks, and do we have the little dip so that they're accessible for all of our citizens, right? Cool. Be nonpartisan on like how much should we charge at the fucking meters in the parking lots on the streets. fines and fees. Okay, cool. Love that journey. But when we're talking about what's going on in the Epstein files, for me, this is not a partisan issue. It's not a bipartisan issue. This is a, are you a piece of shit
Yeah. Yeah.
or are you not?
Go at it, Mary. I know you got stuff to say.
Oh, I've got lots to say. So it isn't a party issue. It 100% is not a party issue. Either you are for or you are against child abuse. The end. Either you are for or you are against human trafficking. The end. Like, you're seeing Republicans come out and start taking stances because they're sick of it too. This isn't a party divide. This isn't a party line. And I think people, like, I'm at the point now where if you're a Democrat and you stayed quiet through this, you're part of it.
Mhm. Absolutely.
That's it. That's it. Because the reality is, it's not just the Republican Party, it's both parties. We have people in power on both sides of the fence that are sitting there taking advantage of these things. And this is happening. And they're all included. And of course they're not fighting for it to come out because they don't want their name released. And the reality is that that's why we need to vote new people in so that it's not people not pushing back because they're scared they're going to be charged or that they're scared they're going to be discovered for being guilty. That's why you need more of us in there so that we can make this happen, so we can bring justice. Like, I am so over it.
Yes.
I'm just laughing because I'm like, this is a great campaign slogan. I'm not in the Epstein files.
Yeah. Yes. And I want to say too, I mean, there was the temptation earlier on, Mary, you started getting passionate and emotional and like, okay, and you kind of reserved yourself. And I would actually advise you to not, say, I'm going to be reserved. Damn it. We're stopping these monsters from raping kids. I think that's what we need to
I'm
say.
trying to not cry, and I'm trying because then I can't get my words out and articulate
I
because
hear
it
you.
gives
I
me an
appreciate
emotional
you.
point
And
and I won't cry.
I think crying is good. I think being furious and showing that emotion is good. I'm sick and tired of people pretending this isn't a thing. So please, your emotions are welcome here at least. And I've seen enough shit too and I've been in rooms a couple of times where these monstrous people, they switch the conversation. They act like this is outside the bounds of decorum to even talk about, and then they try to make us feel guilty for bringing it up. How dare they? How dare they? And it gets to these school shootings. We're supposed to feel guilty about wanting to talk about reform the day after that happens. And they get mad at us. They turn it against us. These fucking Republicans need to sit down and shut up. They can never again in a million years or till the end of time, till the end of humanity, lecture us about anything because they have lost. They are not the moral majority. You cannot be the moral majority when you protect child rapists and when you elect pedophiles. You cannot be that. And we need to take that fight to them. And I like the fact, honestly, any question they ask you in a debate, turn it back to this. They talk about data centers, say those are surveillance centers. The Republicans are using them because we can't turn off our phones anymore. They're using them to get naked pictures of our kids, which they then use for trafficking and targeting because these fucking Republicans are monstrous. And I think that's how we need to talk about these things because the one thing they're very effective at is making us go on the defense. We're supposed to be quiet. We're supposed to say we're sorry. We're supposed to tone ourselves. They're tone policing us all the time. And meanwhile, they're out there raping children and enabling pedophiles. So that's what's got to end. And I appreciate your passion, Mary.
One thing that I will say is that in this area about not being quiet and knowing how to reframe conversations is that I do have experience going up against toxic people. I do have experience going up against narcissistic personality types, right? I'm in a male field. Okay. I've had to stand my ground more times than I can ever count. I have been in and out of family court for the last 5 years, fighting for my kids to be safe. So you can't redirect the conversation. I've been through the gaslighting. I've been through the Darvo. I've been through all those things. And guess what? I see it coming at me now. So you can't change my conversation. You can't redirect me off my point because I'll hold that place marker in my brain until you shut up.
Yes.
Or if I have to scream over you, I'll scream over you. I don't care, but I'm not going to stop. And that's the reality. This is humanity. Okay? I'm sorry. Protecting children, that's humanity. I don't give a crap what side of the fence you're on. That is humanity. That's the stance we take. And I think you will see a massive shift when you put more women into these decision places because we are used to being talked over. We are used to being redirected. We are used to being condescended to. We don't care
Yeah.
because in order to get to the place where you make those decisions, you have to not care. So by the time you're there, you got nothing left to lose. And that's why I think you're seeing this push of women pushing towards politics right now. And it's across the country. Watch them. Look at who's running right now. It's a whole bunch of very angry women who are
Mhm.
really sick of the shit. I
Yes.
don't know if I can say that on here.
You can say whatever the hell you want. Nobody's gonna tone police us. Nobody. They're not gonna stop
Cursing
us.
is a sign of intelligence. I love a well-timed F-bomb, so curse away, queen. And I love what you shared. I think that a lot of people, what we need right now is a lot of good trouble. I love, and I'm not condoning this for legal reasons, but I love seeing people taking down all these flop cameras.
Mm.
It's amazing, like this weird vigilante system of people that are taking down all of these different surveillance, systems, etc. And we need this kind of good trouble. I think we need this kind of resistance. And I know a lot of people are disaffected, but disaffection is like the devil's candy. Okay. Like you can be angry at where we are as a country right now, but to disengage from politics, the number of times people will tell me, oh, I just don't watch the news because the world's just crazy. Okay, but that doesn't absolve you from your civic responsibility. You are a citizen of this land, and unless you are a white
Yeah.
man, somebody somewhere bled, sweat, and cried for you to have the franchise. So I'm going to need you to re-engage. And that's going to look different for people. For Mary, it looks like running for Senate to unseat a career politician, Chris Coons, in a state that loves to put someone in office and keep them there until they
Yeah.
die. Right? Delaware loves to do that. But for me in the past, it's looked like taking out sassy billboards to call out congressmen. Like
Yeah.
you can do a lot of things to re-engage. um, and even this conversation, and Walter, I think the work that you're doing with platforming and having these conversations so that people can just start to see the faces of some of these down ballot. I mean, Mary, of course, is running for federal office, but like this is going on up and down the ballot.
Yes.
And we need that energy. We need that focus. We need that. Ooh, I want a little sazon. I want a little mischief, right? Just some good trouble.
Yeah.
To just and there are the folks that are sort of waking up and deprogramming themselves from whatever the hell kind of cultishness that they have been involved in. And I know a lot of people right now online love to be in the haha, told you so, you're such a dummy, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Welcome them back. If they're waking up, give them a job.
Yeah.
Welcome them back. Give them a job.
Make them prove it. Make them prove
Make
their
them
honor.
prove it.
That's what we should
Make
do.
them prove
Like,
it.
prove
Make
it
them
then.
prove it. It's an apology is table stakes, right?
Means
That's
nothing.
the entry. That's the entry. But to stay at the table, to stay in the fold, reconciliation is necessary. And part of reconciliation is making up reparations for what you've done to harm all the people that you've harmed through, okay, maybe it was indoctrination, maybe it was whatever, but come on back. Let's reconcile and repair. Reparations comes from repair. And part of the way that you can repair is getting your ass just as active as you were for the red hats and getting out in these streets and holding signs and registering voters and you can door knock, you can join texting campaigns, There are so many things that you can do. You don't even have to leave your house. But reparations is based on the word repair, right? Repair is in that word. And so I am not of the mind that we need to do any more ridiculing or shame of these deprogramming former MAGA people. They feel enough shame, okay? If they are deprogrammed enough to say, I made a mistake, they feel an unimaginable amount of shame. We don't need to give them more. We need to give them opportunities to prove their reparations. Yeah.
Mary?
I agree with that. And again, I know you and I have had this conversation, Santana, but the reality is there are a few areas in which we can reach across the aisle, we can come together. And those are going to have to happen along the way for us to be able to start to get some reparations, to start to repair our country. It's going to be necessary, right? But Epstein Files is not one of those.
Yes. She never, yeah.
But there are places, right? But there are places where we can come together to try to start to repair. But you see people that are in the Republican Party that are starting to cross that fence. They're starting to come over because they recognize what's happening. They are waking up. And I do think that that's, you know, healthy for our country. We're all coming out of basically mass gaslighting. I mean, that's what's happened.
Yes.
Wholesale gaslighting of our country, right?
Mhm.
Which is why transparency and accountability is something that I'm also running on. I believe in transparency. I believe in accountability. I believe that you hand me a bill that I'm going to have to go vote on, and I'm going to read every freaking page because I don't trust anyone else to do it. Not because I can't trust other people, but because that's my vote. That is my personal statement of I'm okay with this. And I have to read everything to make sure there aren't things missing. And the reality is that when I get to office, I would love to go through that and wholesale it for other people to look at piece by piece with full explanations, because I think that's where we need to be as a people. We need to come as a country. Like, more people need to wake up, more people need to get involved, more people need to get educated, more people need to
Mm,
start to look at what's happening and step up
yes.
and step in and be loud and use their voices. And that's how we're collectively going to change. That's how we're going to collectively heal as a nation.
Yes.
It's what it's going to take. So that's what I'm pushing for, at least with running. So,
You've both said something I think is really important, this idea of deprogramming, getting out of the gaslighting, and we're kind of bringing it up here. We have to collectively embrace ideas that we've been told, and it goes back beyond, the guy who's in the Oval Office. What got him there is the problem. All these institutions that are there. I've talked a lot about establishing a progressive media. This conversation like we're having now is unusual in our society. This should be a normal conversation. This should be on mainstream news. But we are deliberately pushed to the fringes because there's this established idea that any idea, that is actually effective, they're going to call socialism, and then we just have to dismiss it. Even though, again, as we've said, every single Republican politician, they get state-funded health care for themselves. If their business goes bad, they get a bailout. Rich people get billions and billions of dollars every time their businesses fail. I keep saying, don't even talk about taxing the rich. Just stop giving them free taxpayer money. And we just got to get the majority of the American population to understand these things, to stop being the authors of their own oppression. And so many people, they think to themselves, it all starts with, and the people that worry me most aren't the mega. It's the ones who are sitting there saying, well, I'm going to be reasonable, or I'm going to be realistic, and I'm not going to ask for too much. It's like, damn it, we're not asking for too much. I think that is where the battle is, in the minds of people that are afraid, and they're too afraid. They're cowards because they say, well, the stakes are too high, so we can't push the needle too far. It's like, no, you guarantee a loss. What good does it do to fight for a candidate who votes with the Republicans half the time, to vote for a moderate who votes with the Republicans? You've lost. You guarantee a loss by doing that. We have to have the courage to defend and support the candidates that actually represent us. And Mary, just by the fact that you're here, that makes me believe that you are one of those candidates. So I've found that to be the case over and over again. People who refuse to talk to me, I just do not trust. So thank you again just for being here and having this conversation.
No, I'm happy to be here. I mean, one of the things that I have done with my campaign specifically is I told people reach out to the campaign, send emails. And I'm personally responding to those emails. Like I am reading them, I am personally responding to them. People are tagging me in posts on Facebook, and I am personally going and looking at those posts, and I'm responding to things they're asking, things they're saying, questions that they have. Like I don't expect that to stop when I get to office either. Like the reality is that this is who I am. This is how I'm wired. I have zero interest in running for more than 2 terms. I just want to be clear about that. I'm not going to because I don't believe anyone should be in Senate more than 2 terms. Okay, we span generations and we look at generations, we look at decades per generation and we're going through all these things and we're starting to look at how we're, shifting as a society. And if you have to look at, a politician in office for 30 years, well, they are no longer in touch with what's going on. You get sucked into a bubble. My goal going into office is to not get pulled into that bubble, but to continue to engage with the community, continue to talk to people, continue to reach out, and continue to hear what's going on. Because the reality is that our news is not exactly the best at, as you said, like the news is not the best at reporting things. I'm checking international news, I'm checking local news, I'm checking right, I'm checking left, I'm checking both, putting them together, trying to find something in the middle that might actually resemble the truth.
Mhm.
And like, first of all, that's a lot of work. People should not have to do that much work to know what's going on.
Mhm.
I did see the other day a few platforms that are coming out that literally you download to your phone and they're pulling articles from both sides as well as centrist media and they compare them side by side. And that is fucking brilliant because that's what we need. We need the truth, not
Yes.
just opinion puff pieces about every single thing going on. Like right now, everyone's up in arms about the USS Lincoln, right? Because those sailors are literally killing themselves. They're jumping overboard and killing themselves. And I made a post about it because I wanted people to recognize, like, I looked up the stats on the ship and so, like, the ship should not be out for more than, 70 days. It's only provisioned for 70 days, right? We need and so, like, I understand all the logistics of how things work. So, these decisions that they're making go against the actual protocol of how the Navy even operates, so let's start there. But also what people don't realize is that when you go into the Navy specifically, you are, assessed mentally because of the fact that, especially being out sea, it can cause a lot of
Mhm.
mental, issues and stuff like that, especially if you're stuck in submarines. So, like anyone who goes through to apply to be on a submarine, you have to be assessed for it because it takes a certain personality type, right? And so these sailors have been assessed for this, and none of them are subbers. Right? But they're stuck there for 280. But, like, here's the other thing that they're not recognizing. This isn't the only ship, though. They're just the loudest. This isn't the only one that's sitting out there that's well over their deployment.
Mhm.
There's several of them. So you're about to see a whole wash behind them of a whole more, like, group, like, starting to get loud because they saw these people got loud and got what they need. So now everyone else is probably about to get really loud too. So I think we're gonna see some very interesting things coming across over the next few days.
Yeah. Santana?
Yeah, I think this goes back to a point I was attempting to make earlier. I'm not sure if it landed, but I think a lot of people are waking up to the idea that the majority of content that comes out of the administration is in the uncanny valley. And for a long time, I think the idea that Donald Trump is just being persecuted by the crazy left, blah blah blah, the persecution complex or fantasy, or kink, if you will, is something that I think has kept a lot of people inside of MAGA. But when you start to see the party is shifting so far away from the Republican Party of like the 1990s, the early 2000s, I didn't love George Bush. I'll be honest with you, I didn't love W. But, I could go on a date with a Republican, for example, right? They had their things that they stood for. One of the things that they've historically stood for, they fucking love the military. They do. And so now you're like, well, wait, I can't round this square. I thought we loved our troops. I thought we supported our troops. What are they doing on an aircraft carrier for almost a year without food? The food they eat gets them sick. They're jumping into the ocean. It doesn't compute, right? So I think there's so much going on that folks are starting to say, okay, it's just too many things that I can't square. And, there's this song lyric, and I want to tattoo it on my body. It's kind of the way that I live my life. It's as if you're not sure who not to believe, who has better reason to deceive?
Mm-hmm.
Who has the incentive to deceive right now? Right? Who has the who will benefit most from obscuring the fact that people are jumping off of an aircraft carrier in an elective war, right?
Yeah.
In an elective war in which children have been killed, bombed, little girls in a school, right? Make it make sense. So I think a lot of people are just sort of being like, hey, I was cool with like inconsistency / lie 1 through 1.75 million, but it's 1.75 million and one. And I'm just like, I can't take it anymore. Okay, come on back, right? Wake up whenever you wake up, stay woke. That's kind of what's coming up for me. I think it's just the onslaught. It's too much. And to your point, Mary, it's too much to ask the average person who has a job and maybe also a family to get a fucking PhD in media science and code their own apps so that they can compare all of the available media and try to discern something, some facsimile of truth. It's too much, right? It's too much. So, we're pushed to having this conversation over on Substack. We've got 72 human beings that are rumbling through this with us. That's not nothing. It is something.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what's coming up.
Mary?
Yeah. So one of the things I think like I would love to like kind of assess for people, coming out of toxicity, coming out of a DV background, coming out of going toe to toe with narcissistic personalities and stuff like that, um, is that I've been able to dissect the presidency and how this is working based on like literally that personality issue, right? So MAGA has been the enablers, right? Because with every narcissist, you need the enablers. You need the team that's going to fight for you no matter what, no matter how much you're gaslighting and lying to the world. You need those people to back you up because the more times you say the same thing over and over and over, the human brain starts to believe that as truth, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when I talk about, the country being gaslit on a mass level, I mean, it's because we're being told the same thing over and over and over, and the media is enabling it and helping it. And yes, you have, what they consider the left, leaning, but they're also pushing their own personal agendas as well. And so you don't know who to believe anymore. And I mean, I spent definitely years not knowing who to believe,
Mm-hmm.
right? And going, okay, well, they're saying this and they're saying this, and that's two completely different things that don't even remotely overlap. There's no in between there. There's no overlap whatsoever. Who do you believe, right?
Yeah.
And so I just think like more conversations like this need
Yes.
to happen. I think more conversations, like we're all finding new spaces where we can go to talk, to get our voices out, to say our pieces so that we can spread, what's actually going on, what's actually happening, spread the truth, spread, as you put it, the waking up, right? Like we're all coming into this like new era where the fog is lifting and we're seeing things differently. And so, I agree that, we all need to be talking a lot more. And I do hate that we're kind of pushed into marginalized areas, but I am hopeful that, once we push through the next few years, hopefully, and if
Yes.
we can stop it sooner, I am here for it because I am leading that rate. I'm leading the charge, not gonna lie. But worst case scenario, right? Because I'm always going to catastrophize a little bit, but worst case scenario, get through the next few years to where like hopefully we can start to see more real conversations. But there's a very interesting parallel that I would like to draw here for all of all of our all the people out there who, continue to be afraid of communists. What does Russia do? They control the media. And they say that everyone that's opposed to the people in office are lying. Just is this lost on everybody for real? I'm just really
Yeah.
curious. Like, is this really lost on people?
Yes. I also want to say too, the facts come down to like the math, and we've seen this anti-intellectual regime. They're trying to dismantle education. The talk I'm having with Dr. Connor later today at 5 Central Time, they're erasing databases. They don't want to know. We're not getting data of the increase in the maternal mortality rate. They're burying the facts, and they want us to retreat from that. And what the right is very good at is reframing and channeling these conversations. Well, how dare you say this? Now you're accusing me of racism. They always put us on the defensive so that we are steered away from just like, hey, let's just look at the numbers. Let's just pull out these receipts. And another thing people are afraid to talk about is just this accountability, which is vital. We need to talk about it because unless we're talking about there is going to be a day, ICE agents, that you are going to be held accountable. You may think you're protected now, but if you're out killing people, we're not going to forget and we're going to hold you to account. And that even if today we can't do anything, they'll hear that. And if they hear that from enough people, they're going to think twice when they're in that position to hurt somebody. That's why it's vital to talk about it. And too often we become, in this country, or just as human nature, we become results oriented, where it's like, well, I fought, but I didn't get the result I wanted. So what was the point of the fight? And the reality is there are other results, really, really important results. This is why I think we should be impeaching every single day because it bogs, it makes that the conversation. It educates the population. And it's like this real change, the kind of change that we need. It's going to be slow, it's going to be deliberate. It's in the little conversations, it's the little things every day, things that you don't think have any kind of an effect. But I want to kind of spin to that. Your position, Mary, on abolishing ICE.
Okay, so um, they have to go, but
There we go.
okay, they have to go. But one of the things I will say is like because I looked into everything that they cover because like again, I'm an infrastructure person, I'm an engineer, right? So I'm like, how do we do this, right? So I started looking at everything. They do a little bit of customs work. So like what we do need to do is like get rid of them, but like it might take, you know, 6 months to a year to do so because the other agencies that they overlap in supporting are gonna need to basically staff up to be able to remove them entirely, right? So, like, I have a whole plan, but
Yes.
like, I cannot sit by and watch this anymore. Like, I think the most recent, article that I read was about a, woman who was sent back to Brazil and, like, they stopped like, they basically landed in Brazil and came back with her because her husband was in the army
Mhm.
and and was in the army, and she is indeed actually, like, the mother to, a child here, and all of these things that it's like, "Really?" But it got called out because of the fact that her husband's in the military. But what about everyone else who doesn't have that, you know? And I mean, again, I am married to an immigrant,
Yeah.
like I'm married to an immigrant. This directly affects me, right? I've had the interviews with DHS. Like I'm also a clearance employee. So like I've had in the past like 2 years, I've had like a lot of federal agencies up in my stuff, So like but, like, at the end of the day, like, I can't sit here and watch this anymore. I can't sit and watch people be pulled. The detention centers, I just wanna get access so bad to those detention centers so I can personally go down there and see for myself what is going on,
Yeah. Mhm.
like, and I think that's, like, the difference is, like, I'm not just gonna, you know, stay in Delaware, go to Washington. Stay in Delaware, go to Washington. Like, I'm gonna look at some of these national issues and be like, okay, cool. How do I get in there so I can personally see with my own eyes what is happening? How do I put my foot in that door so that I can speak from my personal experience to the country? Like, no, this is what's happening. I personally witnessed it. Here is pictures. Like,
Yes.
I
Yes.
am that person because, again, accountability, open, I want that open flow, right? But no, ICE has got to go. We have to do it appropriately so that we're not harming the other agencies that have to still do their jobs, but they gotta go.
Yeah. Border Patrol too needs some considerable reformation. If you read Jen Budd's book Against the Wall, it's awful. And so, but I mean, just having reasonable conversations about it, that's how we start. I appreciate that you're the accountability factor. It kind of snowballs. Once you start holding the first person accountable, the next person falls. And our whole issue right now is that absolutely nobody's being held accountable. So any kind of direction in that, yeah, it'll open up. We're kind of closing up on the end of time. So, Santana, I'll let you have your closing thoughts and then turn to Mary.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, one thing that kind of stuck out from what you said a little bit earlier, Walter, was about this burying of facts or the erasure of facts. The country is a lot worse off than it seems, right? And that is happening because of what's going on with facts. If you look at the job report from July that had to be revised, it suddenly sort of liquidated what looked like gains, and then 100% of the jobs that were lost in the United States in the month of July were lost by women.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
How fucking hard do you have to try to make that be?
Yes.
To make that be, right? This is something that I touch in my work every single day. We are seeing the rights of women eradicated at the fastest pace in my lifetime. We are seeing women pushed out of the workforce. We are seeing women lose access to reproductive health and justice. And we're starting to see the spiritual advisors of J.D. Vance et al., blah, blah, as well as talking heads and politicians saying the quiet part out loud, which is they would like to repeal the 19th Amendment. I don't know that people realize how close that reality is. This is not something that's like, oh, it'll never happen. This can fucking happen. Okay. And unless people are taking swift and decisive action and really taking responsibility and ownership over the civic duty that we all have as Americans to act, to vote, to organize, to get loud, to get in these streets, they're going to come for the women. They already came for the trans women. They're going to come for the women. And then what do you think is next? Okay. So I really want to see people, if they don't want you to read something, that needs to become the hottest piping tea. And you need to find that thing and get your hands on it and read it. If it's banned, read it, find it. Okay. Save it, share it, fax it around if you have to. If they don't want you to see it, there's a reason. And it is incumbent upon us all to bear the weight of this civic duty while the fucking executive and whatever is going on in DC is not doing it for us. Okay. We need to step up, get loud, get involved, take action. And that is the only hope that we have of righting this ship in the mid to near future. So that's my last plug. Be on your toes, looking out. They're coming for the women.
Yes.
Be mindful, support organizations that are backfilling what the federal government is cutting. There are hundreds, if not tens of thousands throughout the United States that are supporting women, supporting families. Find them, support them, volunteer for them. There's so many ways to play a role in taking back over the helm of this ship. So I'm going to stop there.
Perfect. Mary, I just put your webpage in the comments, so go ahead and give your final.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a large portion of why I'm running is women's rights. I mean, they are marginalizing us. There we go. Words coming out of my mouth. And they're pushing us down and they're silencing our voices, and that means we just have to scream louder. That's fact, right? And I am, you know, I do have to say, I will state this, I don't find it coincidence that the Senate a few years back had a whole conversation about, population and needing more people to be, more people, and then all of a sudden they started coming for abortion rights, right? And I also don't find it, I find it interesting that we're having all these issues with child protective services and them taking kids and taking people and them disappearing. But also now we're trying to make, people who aren't ready to have kids, aren't in situations to have kids, have kids. There's some things that I've noticed overlap and how they kind of all wind together. And there's definitely going to be some digging on my part about those things, right? But they're trying to quiet us. They're trying to silence us. And we just need to get louder, which is why we need to be the ones there voting, making the decisions, because I don't trust any man to decide the rights for me and my 3 girls. I just don't. And I don't trust these men that are in office, Republican or Democrat. I don't care. I don't trust them to be making our decisions, which is why I'm running, which is why I'm going, which is why I am so fired up. Because again, you want to have more voices for women, we need to have more voices for women, then we need to be the ones in there screaming it from the rooftops, making the decisions, voting on all the legislation, right? Because they're not going to be able to vote for us the way we're going to vote for us. They're not going to ever advocate for us the way we're going to advocate for us. So at the end of the day, I'm voting for as many female candidates as I possibly can in every single office. I am voting, in that manner, because again, I want all of our voices to be heard. And there is something about a power in us doing it together.
Yes.
All of us rising up together at the same time. We've had the patriarchy. It's time for the matriarchy. Let's go. So that's my closing thoughts.
I think that's perfect. And your webpage, Mary Louve, like the museum, marylouveofficial.com, so people can find you and donate to your campaign, get to know you better. I've got other friends that are going to want to interview you. We have to continue to have. This has been a lovely discussion. It's been a lovely, lively discussion. We got riled up a little bit, but that's what we need. We got to meet this moment, not by sitting around being passive and resigning ourselves to some dictated status quo, some decorum to people that don't deserve it. Let's call out I've had enough of the lies. Let's call out the facts, even if the facts are ugly, because it's not us committing these crimes, is it? Why are we the ones feeling guilty? So I guess I'm getting riled up again. But I love you. I love you guys. Everybody in the chat's wonderful. We will. Oh, when is the primary? That's September 15th. Is that correct? September 15th.
September 15th.
Perfect. Well, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. Everybody share this when it comes out. We'll talk again soon. Everybody have a great day. Thank you guys both for being here.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.